They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello everybody, welcome to Everybody's Dead Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast featuring the relative newbie, that's myself, Adam Martyn, and what's a polite term? The
seasoned veteran.
That's it, the seasoned veteran, Phil Hawkins. How you doing, Phil?
Hello. I'm good. Good. Yeah. It's still too hot, but
it is still, at the time we're recording this, it is still very much too hot. We need some cooler weather. Bring on the winter, that's what I say. But we are back with another Red Dwarf review. We're on Series 10. We're well into the Dave era now. We're on Episode 2, Fathers and Sons. So, where do we start off with then? Well, we start with Lister. He's playing, well, seemingly like at first he's got the steering wheel as like a driving game. You see those controllers, but then there's one point where he's like firing a gun as well. But I don't know if he's firing it at the screen or he's playing something. It's all a bit strange. And we get a little Gelf reference, don't we?
Yeah, he's got his Gelf alcohol, Gelf hooch.
Gelf hooch, that's right.
I love a bit of Gelf hooch. I can imagine that tastes absolutely vile.
If it tastes as bad as it looks, because it's just this sort of like brownish, suspiciously brown liquid, which doesn't look that very nice.
Yeah, like muddy water, basically. And that's being generous. I could have thought of something else there. But yeah, let's go with muddy water. Muddy
water works, yeah. But Lister, when reveals that he's making, because Rimmer comes in, and this is so Rimmer says he can hear like a whining noise. Like, and,
yes.
And we get this whole gag of Lister being like, "It's you, mate. It's you." There you go.
I like that gag. That was good.
Yeah, I do like the gag, but I guess to jump forward just a tiny bit, I guess it's because like near the end of that scene, he says it again. He goes, "Oh, there's that noise again," and Lister just goes, "Oh yeah, it's you." And I know there's a thing about the ship's a bit in disarray, especially on B deck. But is that what he's referring to? Because it's never really brought up again. This sort of noise that only Rimmer can hear.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just generally that the ship is in rather a state of disrepair, and which follows through on.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So
yeah,
yeah. But whilst Rimmer comes in, Lister he picks up this card, and Lister says, "Oh, he's making a Father's Day card," and Rimmer very nicely and neatly ties back to I'm going to say it wrong.
Ouroboros.
Yes, Ouroboros. Do you know what? You could tell I was scared there. I was like, is it? Because my mind, I think I said this last time, I always want to say Aurora Boreas, like the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. That's the temptation, but no. Ouroboros.
Ouroboros. Or, as the people in the pub said in that episode, Ouroboros.
Yes, Ouroboros. But if you need a memory refresh, in that episode, it's revealed that the whole thing of Lister being left in a cardboard box as a baby under the pool table, he did that himself, canonically making himself his own father. And it's all a bit weird, isn't it? We've said several. It's all a bit.
Own father. His own ex-girlfriend is his mother. It's very weird.
It's very. Don't think about it too much. But do you think it's nice that we get that little?
Yeah, I love it. I love that we get that callback to the fact that he is his own dad. It's like the deep lore of, if there can be deep lore, of Red Dwarf. And, they're sticking to it, and I like it. And they use it to really good effect in this episode. I love how they use that in this episode.
Although I imagine if you hadn't seen that episode, because that was Series 7, I think, wasn't it? If you hadn't seen that, Rimmer's explanation, you might have been left like, what? Like, what
True, but I have a feeling that by this point, you're probably not watching Series 10 of Red Dwarf if you haven't, or if you're not already invested in Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I would be curious though, like how many viewers were, were like new viewers on broadcast. If you get me, like when Series 10 went out, how many? Do you know what I mean? Like for how many viewers? How was that their first?
This is 10 years ago now. So did any of our listeners out there? Was this?
Yeah.
Was
this your first?
Era, your first bit? So was this series your first series?
Yeah.
And if so, what did you think of this whole situation? And did it track? Did you get enough information from the episode to know what was
Yeah.
going on, or do you feel a bit like what? Let's go what?
Because I think we've always said, I mean, as Doctor Who fans, we have the same problem, don't we? With long-running shows like this, obviously, it's nice to make callbacks, of course it is, but it's straddling that line, isn't it? Like, are we doing it to a level that's just for, like, the tried and true fan who's seen everything, or are we trying to make it on that, like, accessible baseline, I guess, you know, for people who maybe haven't. Do you know what I mean? And Red Dwarf, I feel, has tried to do that line sometimes. Sometimes it goes into, like, the deep cuts, as we've said. It'll ignore glaring big points of continuity, and then the minutiae of detail they'll just go back on, but always nice to see.
One thing about doing the whole Father's Day card thing, I think I get why they wanted to focus on him being his own dad, because that's the focus of the episode. But, like, a passing reference to the fact that he has 2 other kids that are currently residing in a parallel universe would also have been nice.
Yeah,
you know,
but alas,
given that part of this episode is about how he's a bad dad, you know, he's never had contact with them since they were a baby. So, you know, it would have been nice to have a little.
They've just sort of been forgotten about, bless them. At the moment, you know, we've got a few series left. You know, I don't know, maybe. But Crichton comes in and delivers the Father's Day card that Lister wrote the previous year, to which he finds very amusing. A little card with dreads on it and all that sort of stuff. And I think Rimmer's finding this whole thing very awkward, isn't he? Like, I don't think he sort of knows how to take it. It's just a bit weird. So him and Crichton go off to inspect the ship to see what all these problems are. And they have a little chat with the vending machine.
You missed explaining, and I'm sure people know having watched it, but I love the fact that what he does is he writes a card to himself.
Yes, the logic behind it.
Gives it to Crichton to take away and give it to him next year. But what he does is he immediately after writing the card gets absolutely blind drunk on the girl Hooch in this case, so that he doesn't remember writing it, doesn't remember what he wrote, and therefore it'll be a nice surprise, and he'll get a card from himself that he doesn't know what's in it.
Yes,
I love that. It's so creative.
It's a very Lister thing as well.
Yeah. Do you think
Lister.
the dreadlocks that were attached to it were his own dreadlocks? Do you think he cut some off and then got blind drunk and forgot about it, and then woke up in the morning and was like, "Where have my dreads gone?"
Well, Oh, you mean as in the character?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, from what we see, what happens later in the episode with, like, the video and stuff, it would not be without the realm of possibility for Lister to cut off his own hair and then forget about it. So,
yeah.
But Rimmer and Crichton inspect the ship and they bump into a vending machine. I always like when we get these, like, machines on Red Dwarf with personalities, like, you know, who can forget Talkie Toaster, the infant. I really hope he comes back in the Dave era, Phil. I'm gunning for it. I'm really gunning for it. And we get this is interesting because Crichton says, "Oh yeah, we had a great time last night. We had a game of Chinese whispers." And then Rimmer, at this point, sort of seemingly out of nowhere, just says, "Is Chinese whispers racist?" And then he sort of gives a little spiel about his thoughts on that. And I think this joke's returned. But what did you think of this whole thing? Because to me, obviously, like, at that point in the episode, to me, it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it did strike me as slightly strange that it's Rimmer worrying that it's racist, because Rimmer doesn't strike me as somebody who would
necessarily be bothered.
Yeah, he would normally worry about that. So, like, I was already thinking, like, what's his ulterior motive for bringing this up? But he didn't seem to have one by the end of the episode. It was just a setup for a long running joke that keeps on coming back. I mean, I don't know what to think about it, to be honest. What do you think?
Well, I thought, like, you know, you could have, not saying you can't, have the argument, like, you know, things like you could always up for debate that. I'm not saying it's invalid at all, but it just, in the context of what was, you know, it wasn't like we just witnessed something, you know, that you could construe as racist. You know, Crichton just said, "Oh, we had a game of Chinese whispers," and that was so it just felt a bit odd that it was there, if you get me. Do you know, maybe because, as you say, they expand on the Chinese whispers joke as the episode goes on, and we'll get to that. But maybe if that speech had been done at the end of the episode, or, you know, towards the end after the joke had been expanded, I don't know. It just, not saying it's bad. It just felt very odd. It was like, Rimmer's talking to me about racism now. Okay, that's not what I expected, but But here we are.
Yeah. They
so
also make a reference to Holly, which is nice.
Yes, yes.
Holly's gone. We know that. We got a hint in Back to Earth that something had been spilled on his central processor and he got a bit fried, which is unfortunate. We, of course, miss Norman Lovett. But
we do, yes.
But they found a new computer.
Yes, they certainly have. They set up they have to set up like what they look like and stuff. And I must admit, for most of this, I quite like this. You know, Rimmer's whole, "Oh, I'm not bothered what it is. Female, yeah, not bothered. Oh, 25, yeah, not bothered. All that." Did you like that whole setup?
Yeah,
or?
that was a fun gag. I really enjoyed that. He's trying to act nonchalantly like, "Oh, dear, male or female, it doesn't really matter, Crichton, female."
Yeah,
it's just it was good. And then he got to the breast size, and then a big big thing about that.
Breast size. I can't honestly believe they actually still ask that question these days. It's absolutely ludicrous. It really is.
No, I totally agree with you, sir. I'll choose the first one, 30A.
Hang on. What's the hurry, Crichton? Everyone knows you don't just pick the first thing that comes into your head. What's that one down there at the bottom?
36D, sir.
Fine, go with that one. Whatever. 36D it is.
I've already highlighted 30A, sir.
Crichton, don't argue. 36D it is. Sir, Crichton, it's not important. I don't know why you're making such a fuss about this. 36D. Select it. Moving on.
But I'm not making a fuss, sir.
Okay, I'm pulling rank. I order you to select 36D as the breast size for the new computer. And that's an order.
It's the ridiculousnit of it, you know, the point that Rimmer's driven to saying, you know, as superior officer, I order you to make the breast 36D. Like, you know, it's ridiculous, but it works really well. And they finally pick, and the new computer launch is known as Pre, who has quite a striking face. I was quite intimidated because bless that actor, she hardly ever blinks. It's just those big bulging eyes staring out at you, so I found that quite unnerving. We get a nice little nod to predictive text that we all have on our phones and social media and stuff. But she uses it as predictive behavior, I think she said, or predictive thought patterns.
Yeah. Did this remind anybody else of Cassandra? Because it did me.
Yeah, the whole how she could predict what they were going to say or do and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed like taking that premise of that computer and using it again. They use it in a slightly different way, but it's still the basis of the sort of.
That's true. That'd be my question to Grant Naylor, you know, whoever was involved. Be like, what were they a direct inspiration? And with this show, they probably say, I haven't got an effing clue. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But Lister wakes up the next day in a shopping trolley on a kebab pillow, which I found quite amusing. How when we're drunk, you find anything as a pillow.
And he's got a traffic cone.
And he's got the classic. You know, you're not doing it right if you don't wake up with a traffic cone next to you. Although I do feel for the road workers because I'm sure that's very annoying when they come back and all their traffic cones have disappeared. And I noticed when he wakes up, this is such a small thing, but part of the walls, this is when he finds the tape that's been left for him. Part of the walls, I swear, they're old like 90s era computers painted red.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Because the shape of them, you know, they have like old computers had like the fat backs and stuff, but then they like curve downwards.
Right.
I don't know why I noticed it. I saw the shape and they obviously turned around, so you don't see the monitor. It's like the back of it. But I'm telling you, for anyone who go back and watch it, that scene where he wakes up, look at the wall. I guarantee you they are 90s era computers, which I thought was funny. But Rimmer does find a VHS tape. Shame it's not one of the triangle.
Lister.
Sorry, Lister. Lister finds the tape, not Rimmer. Shame it's not one of the triangle tapes from Series 1.
Yeah.
I miss those triangle tapes.
But hey, still VHS tapes.
Still good old VHS.
Which we got an explanation for in Back to Earth, didn't we?
We certainly did,
and
yeah.
Why
that whole...
they use VHS tapes.
That's right.
People kept on losing their DVDs.
Which is true. Do you know what? I lost a few of my DVDs as a kid, I'm not going to lie. You just forget to put them back in the box and they end up here, there, and everywhere.
That's true, but then I did that with VHS as well. Although, admittedly, they are more chunky. I got them muddled up, but I didn't necessarily lose them.
Hopefully easier to find.
Yeah. Lister's had a previous conversation with the Medibot about how he wants to be a good father. And
that's
father.
right, yes.
And this is kind of like the result of that, these tapes.
Yes. Yeah, and he's so he finds the video, and it's himself the night before, drunk on Gelth Hooch. sort of just berating him for all of his flaws, how he feels like he hasn't amounted to anything, he's a giant disappointment, he's wasted his life. So drunk Rimmer wants to instill in himself to do better, but we get this, Craig Charles, bless his heart, this scene is completely, just him reacting to himself. And I think he's done it brilliantly, because it's not easy reacting to yourself. And I love the moments of physical comedy, like when he falls off the chair in the video and then he tries to get back up and he just falls the other way. It's brilliant and physical stuff.
It's because it's the sort of the dad version of him on the tape and the son version of him in real life at the time type thing. And the dad version of him, the dad drunk version of him, is basically like chastise. I love the way he says like,
"You're a big disappointment to me, David."
Yes, yeah, and how like current Lister says, "Oh, like sorry, Dad," and like even though it's himself, it is quite funny.
We get a reference to Chrissy in this bit as well.
Yes, yeah,
and we got one last episode as well. I'm wondering if we're going to get some kind of Kachansky reference every single episode.
Yeah, and never actually see her. So,
I don't think we're going to see her, but
quite possibly. I mean, I'd love to see Kachansky again, but you're right. We do keep getting these little references because he says, you got to enroll in the program, do this, whatever it is, and find Chrissy. And Dave just sort of, a current lister just sort of shrugs. Well, he says, how do I do that? But he doesn't sort of address the Kachansky one specifically. So yeah, you might be right. Maybe they'll just be throwaway lines that are there, but then they never actually get expanded upon. We'll have to see as we go on. But dare I say it, Phil? I thought towards the end, was this scene going on for a little too long?
What do you think? I don't think it did. I loved it.
No?
I love the back, and because he keeps on like skipping to the next one when he's been told not to, because he's meant to go do the tasks first. And of course, the Dave on the tape knows that he would skip ahead. The best bit of that is the guitar, because he threatens in that if you don't go do this, I'm going to chuck your guitar. If you skip ahead again, I'm going to chuck your guitar into space. Which of course is his own guitar. But Dave looks behind him and sees the guitar. He's like, he didn't. Oh, I didn't. And so he does skip to the next one again. But it turns out he's like, go look at the guitar. Go play me something on the guitar. And then he goes to play and it's just a cardboard cutout of the guitar. And his guitar is in space.
And he gives a typical teenage son reaction of, "Oh, like I hate you," and all that sort of stuff. Like I thought that was nice. I loved this whole scene, and I don't think it went on too long. I think each time it kept it fresh enough. I think it stopped at the right point. I think it had gone on any longer, it would have been too long. But I think they did just enough. But you watch, Lister's guitar, will probably reappear, and it won't be explained how he got it back.
Oh, he keeps on getting loads of different guitars, and they're all his special guitar.
His exactly. So that's again one slice of continuity they couldn't be bothered about. Meanwhile, Rimmer's having a chat with Pri, who honestly I feel is like a nice, I guess, more modern day update to the Holly computer. Not that I'd take her over Holly any day, but I feel like she's meant to be this. She's portrayed as this new software, this new machine, and I feel they do a good job of presenting that. Because it wasn't just Holly again, do you know what I mean? Someone with dry comments. She's a fully emotionless machine. So I mean, just while we're on it, what do you think of Pri as a whole?
I thought it was well used in the episode. It was interesting. I wouldn't have wanted her to stick around particularly. I don't think, but I think she just served this narrative purpose for this story, and once that's done, I don't think it would have been, the whole predicted thing would have been a bit played out. And
just would have gone on a bit too long, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But Rimmer and Crichton go down to B deck, and it's an absolute mess. Everything is messed up, and Pri reveals that she basically, her protocol deems that she would copy what the lead officer would do or something like that. So she basically copied what Rimmer would have done, and because he would have cocked it up, she's deliberately cocked it up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought was a good gag.
Yeah.
I thought that works. But in the Medibay, Cat's waiting for the Denty bot, but he's not actually going for the dentist, he just wants the last can of anaesthetic.
Yes.
Because it call out to hoarders everywhere that, what is it, the hoarders line? I don't need it, but I might do one day. Which I've used that. I'll hold my hands up. I've said that a few times with various things. I don't necessarily need it, but I might need that one day for the once in a blue moon opportunity, so I like that. We continue the Chinese whispers, and obviously...
Yeah, because that's kind of been going on between these scenes. We've had several of them so far, haven't we, by the time we reach this point?
Yeah, so like it's mentioned to... I think Crichton asks the vending machine, and then the vending machine asks Kat, who then asks Lister.
Yeah,
and that's where
the question is starting as, is Chinese whispers racist? And then it kind of becomes, what does it become?
Kat says it's Chinese whiskers
racist.
Yes.
And then that becomes something like, do Chinese knickers have braces? So yeah, they are doing the kind of...
they're doing the Chinese whispers gag, yeah.
And for the most part, I think this works. I was a little like, about the voice on the Asian
Taiwan
food.
Tony.
Yeah, Taiwan Tony. It was like, okay.
Yeah, well, I realised in the credits, and I haven't looked, but the actor who voiced Taiwan Tony also voiced, the Medibot in the Med Bay. And I don't know if I don't know if the actor is of Asian descent or heritage, but I think with Taiwan Tony, from my perspective anyway, it did seem like that the accent was sort of overemphasized for that character. Which I think, I don't know. I think the fact that Rimmer introduced that thing of his Chinese whispers racist, like you said, makes it feel very odd then to have a character that sounds like that.
The very stereotypical...
I wasn't sure. Yeah. I'm not... Yeah, I didn't feel uncomfortable. It was just a bit awkward because you're like, wait, hang on. So you've just... That's what I mean. The whole Rimmer coming out of it early on and talking about, is it racist? Just sort of any time it's mentioned again, like you say, they're doing the Chinese whispers gag where it, like the phrase changes, which, that's funny because that is the game of Chinese whispers. But because it's been now pre-centered with, do you know what I mean? With this thing, it's like, well, hang on, what are you trying? Basically, for anyone wondering who hasn't seen it, the question is Chinese whispers racist. It's not answered. We'll just say that now. It's not answered in the show. But yeah, it's just odd, isn't it? It's just an odd.
I liked it though. I like how they,
it wasn't. I'd say it wasn't uncomfortable. You weren't like, oh
it's
god.
Playing on like, using Chinese whispers about a question about Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. Dave, Lister continues to, because his dad had said, you got to do this, you got to sign up. Oh no, one of the things, that was it, the missing thing. You got to get that fill-in done. That's why he's at the Medibay. And Kat's taking the last anaesthetic, so he's going to have to do it without pain. And he goes in, doesn't he, all that bravado, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and it's going to be fine. Get the drill going, and the minute the drill starts, he's out of there. He does not want to be there. He does not want to do it. I think we've all been like that. I know when I was younger, I was like that at the dentist, even with anaesthetic. There's just something about the drills.
It's time to deviate off course for anecdotes.
Let's do it.
As we often do. I have been told this. I can't remember this, but apparently once when I went to the dentist when I was quite young, I must have been 4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
My mum has told me that I so didn't want to be in there that not only was I screaming and kicking, I managed to get away out the chair. I grabbed, apparently, a fire extinguisher and was wielding it, trying to bat people away from me to try and not go in the chair.
Oh, God. Oh, Phil.
So, yes, I completely empathize with Dave in this situation.
That fit. Oh, I never did that. Just give me a sticker or a lollipop and I'd be all right. But yeah,
I can't remember that. I'm just being told that. I've just been told that by my mum. And I generally have other memories of going to the dentist when I was absolutely fine. But clearly that time I did not want to be there.
There was just, there was something going on. You just...
And seeing how now my 2-year-old son acts when he doesn't want to do something and you're trying to make him do it, I can absolutely see how... I go, you just take after me. He'll scream and shout, kick him, everything.
But you'd never admit that to him, of course.
No,
not till he's older, at the very least. Oh dear. I mean, if you want, let us know your dentist memories. I'm sure we've all got some. I know I certainly have. But Dave, he doesn't have that fill-in, and drunk Dave the night before anticipates that. He knows what he's like. He says, "You didn't do it, did you?" But then Pre appears on the screen to reveal that he's actually resigned from Red Dwarf. and he is a former crewman.
Yes, the drunk Dave, as
the drunk
punishment
Dave did,
for
yes.
him not doing it, for anticipating that he wouldn't do it, as resigned himself from JMC.
Yes. And Lister tries desperately to explain the situation, how it's his dad who looks like him, but it was his dad who resigned and not him, but it's also him, and, that whole convoluted explanation of it. But Pre's having none of it, and she reveals that his free oxygen privilege will be revoked in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, it's very dystopian, isn't it? The fact that you have to be an employee to get the free oxygen. Although I don't know why then she doesn't also eject Cat, because
I thought this because he's not an employee.
No.
He's just there. So, and neither's Crichton technically, because he wasn't on Red Dwarf to be. They just sort of brought him aboard. So yeah, that's a strange bit of continuity, isn't it? Are they just leeching off somewhere? Who knows?
It's very dystopian and kind of like companies will control your life.
Yeah,
this
very ultra capitalist.
Yeah,
really.
this is why you should join unions, people. Got to fight this
stuff. Oh yes, fight the good fight. Absolutely. Lister desperately, he has to think of a plan. He has to get out, but he's being chased by the garbage robots. I think they are, because Crichton calls them Garby at the start, which I thought was cute. But now they've got spikes on the end of them for some unknown reason. So the garbage robots are chasing them. And he gets some spacesuit gear, but he falls into the airlock and just about gets it all on before he's sucked out into space. So Lister is gone. Yeah, what did you think of the whole chase down thing? Sort of because they made it, obviously they tried to make it very dramatic. Like the music's very rousing and like doom laden, and the various, he goes one way, he's being cornered by one of the robots. He goes, do you know what I mean? It felt very much.
I liked the pace was up. I liked it. It was it was pretty good. Yeah.
So Pre informs the rest of them that Dave is gone. And that Red Dwarf, because the last human, as it were, that was the mission, to get Dave back to Earth. Now that he's gone, no longer a crew member, that's no longer a necessity. So JMC deemed that in that situation, Red Dwarf should just be flown into the nearest sun.
Due to the environmental policy, apparently.
Yeah, which boggles the mind, but yeah, sure.
I guess because if it's running and it's polluting, I guess it's a very polluting ship, maybe.
Possibly. I mean, it looks like an old rust bucket, so quite possibly. They have 90 minutes, and we get a little montage of it heading towards a sun, and with some, I wrote here, with some interesting CGI, Dave flies back inside Red Dwarf.
With some also interesting music, very heroic music, which I thought, I haven't checked, but it reminded me of the Ace Rimmer music.
Do you know what? When they played it, it's like the shot of him coming in front of Red Dwarf, like coming back in. Yeah, I thought the music sounded very familiar, so we might have to go and double check to see if that is the Ace Rimmer music, because, I mean, it worked, but it was. And I thought the CG, like where he's going like through a corridor in the ship, like the red wall sort of thing. It was interesting. Obviously, like we know, Dave is a TV channel. It's probably not got the biggest budget compared to the main channels or movies, but I don't think it looked awful. Just one of those where you can tell it's CGI, I think. So, so he gets back in, and they've got to think of a plan, the boys from the Dwarf. Pre attempts to stop them. She's thought about all this, so she's pumping laughing gas into the corridor for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't quite get the reason for the laughing gas, as opposed to something that would knock them out or something. But
just like straight up poisonous gas, but no, laughing gas. They try and get out through a vent, but that's already been boarded up. Well, I must admit, that did make me laugh, though, when they get the vent open and they realise it's been sealed. And because it's laughing gas, Crichton's like, oh, it's been sealed.
Why is Crichton affected by the laughing gas as well?
It's just...
And
I think they go on a week-by-week basis of what Crichton and Rimmer are affected by and what they aren't. The garbage bots come in, they're moving in for the kill. All hope seems lost.
They get very close, and with some, those spikes, they're very bendy spikes once they get very close, aren't they?
Yes, with a little bit of force, they're very easily bended. And using the Lister realizes, using the medical file he opened earlier in the episode for a Dave Lister Jr., as in the son of Drunk Dave,
which he opened. We didn't talk about that, but he opened it because the Medibot told him that if he has a son, then that son should be registered, and then he will get privileges like
Yep.
free video games.
Which, that's an incentive for anybody, right?
Yeah.
So using that knowledge that the medical file, he technically wangles that he is on the ship and that he can be a crew member and that Pre should shut down, and she does so, and the day is saved, as it were.
He logics her out of...
Logics her out.
Logicked her into destroying herself.
That's how you deal with computers, kids. Just logic them out. And we finish almost as we started, really. How Lister comes back in and Crichton's showing him the various, here's the free video games and the TV package. But he's like, no, I've turned a new leaf. I'm going to do the robotics course.
Yeah, which was the course that he was being told to by himself on the drunk self.
By drunk Dave,
do the robotics course, yeah.
So he's about to do it. He's like, nah, video games has not got a part. But then he notices one of the games is, I think, like a zero gravity football game of some kind. And instantly all that's out the window. He's like, right, Crichton, me and you this weekend, that's all we're doing. Crack the champagne, let's go. And we finish, as the episode started, with Lister playing some sort of video game.
Yeah,
and
I thought it was a good, strong ending. I thought it was like a definitive, because sometimes the Red Dwarf endings can meander a bit and kind of feel like, that's a weird place to end. But this was a good punchline to end on, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice, solid ending. And that, folks, is episode 2 of Series 10, Fathers and Sons. As usual, we're going to dive into our regular segments. So, Phil, who was your favourite character in this one?
Oh, it's got to be Lister in this one, I think. It's got to be. He's like,
generally, or are you going for Drunk Dave, or...?
Just generally. So, but just like that bit where he's talking to himself. I mean, he is the focus of the episode, so that does make sense. But he, his scenes with the Medibot, he's just great and throughout all of it. I really enjoyed Lister in this one. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's got to be Lister. I guess more highlight to Drunk Lister for what I mentioned about like the physical comedy and again, from an acting standpoint, Craig Charles knocked it out the park. So it's not easy acting with yourself. And yeah, just a great character piece for him. So love that. And your funniest moment, Phil?
I had several. This was an episode that was full of moments where I could have chosen for this, actually. It was a really strong episode. But I'm going to go for the Dave talking to himself via the video. The drunk Dave leaving the videos and all that interaction. That was just so fun. I was actually laughing out loud, which elicited some strange looks from my daughter, who was watching telly on the other side of the room, watching something else. I had headphones in watching Red Dwarf. Just like, what are you laughing at? So yeah, I literally was laughing out loud at that. Great scene.
Oh, good choice. For me, it's got to be Rimmer selecting the new computer build.
That was one of the other options. Yeah, definitely.
Chris Barry's just like, try to deadpan to it. Yeah, I'm not bothered. Female. Like, just really, really funny. Even the joke about the breast size and all that. Normally, I'd find that stuff like just really juvenile but the way it's played here, like the ridiculousness of it, the fact he has to pull rank to authorize it I found quite funny. So yeah, that's the highlight for me. And your overall score, Phil, how many scutters out of 10?
Oh, I'm giving this, I really enjoyed this episode. It's been my favorite episode for I think a long time.
Okay.
I'm gonna
what overall, like of the whole show?
It's one of my it's been my favorite episode for a long time. So it's been a long time since I've enjoyed an episode this much.
I get you. Yeah.
But it is quite high up. I'd say even overall, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, been a while since we've given out one of those. Yeah. Oh, very nice.
What are you giving it?
Not as high.
Fair enough.
I think I'm going to give this one a 7.5.
Okay.
Still liked it. Still strong. Again, I just thought that, as we mentioned, like Rimmer's speech about race, like, again, not invalid, not in any way, shape or form, but it feels really random in the shape of everything. And there were one or two little moments where I thought maybe you could have cut things here or there, but on the whole, yeah, really enjoyable. We're 2 for 2 in terms of good Series 10 episodes, so it's already doing better than Back to Earth and might do better than Series 8, because from what I remember of Series 8, I think I liked Back to the Red Part 1 a fair bit, like the opener I thought was good. Yeah. And then it just the quality sort of dipped and dived everywhere from that point. So yeah, it's nice to have consistently good, in my opinion anyway, consistently good Red Dwarf again.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah. Question.
Well, there you go. Positive reviews for Fathers and Sons. Next week we'll be back to take a look at Lemons. Episode 3, Lemons. But in the meantime, please, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And YouTube's the main place where we get comments and feedback for this podcast. So please feel free. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you think of the show, any feedback, anything you want to see outside of the regular TV show. Because we do like our specials, don't we, Phil?
We do.
We like
just
looking at
the run of specials. So
we do. So any suggestions like that, please let us know. We've also got a Twitter account at All Dead Dave Pod. So if you want to leave us any comments, feedback, etc., please feel free to do so there. But individually, Phil, in the meantime, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can see that YouTube version of the podcast on my YouTube channel, which is Philip Hawkins, just my name. And as well as this podcast, there's a whole load of Doctor Who, MCU, Star Trek content up there as well. So basically lots of geeky pop culture. And then you can find me on Twitter at CultureFilter, filter spelled Philter, because my name's Phil.
His name is Phil. Go and follow him there. And for myself, it's just Adam Martyn on YouTube. That's Martin with a Y. You can follow, subscribe to us there for all sorts of stuff. And on Twitter, it's at Adam Martyn AMTV for daily ramblings. So, yeah, thank you very much for listening to Everybody's Dead Dave. We'll be back next week looking at lemons. And remember, when life gives you lemons, you make, well, what's the phrase? Is it when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade? That's it. I really
You almost had it
that.
there. You almost had it.
Do you know what? First it was Aurora Boreas, then it's the lemons quote. Who knows what?
Should we go for another take of that now?
No, no. I will own my mistake for everyone to hear. But no, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And myself and Phil, we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.